Hello, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about remote management. It's been a topic of conversation for a lot of coaches that I've worked with lately. And I thought maybe we could spend a few minutes talking about that and what that means for you. So, everyone knows the pandemic hit, and many people who had never been remote became remote. And it's almost like a skill set that leaders just haven't tapped into enough yet to feel comfortable. It's not that they can't do it. It's not that they maybe didn't do it on a one-off situation, but doing it more full time requires a lot of different thinking and a lot of strategies to be effective at it. And it's not only happening in terms of just meeting with team members one-on-one, but also think about it from an onboarding standpoint. Leaders are now being asked to onboard someone totally remote, which has probably never happened before for them. And they're struggling. They're struggling because they're used to that connection of sitting next to the person and showing them what to do. And that's not available right now. So I just wanted to go into a couple ideas for each of those things and help you, if you're the leader, think about ways to navigate this new world. And for you, if you are the person who is working for someone who's remote, there are also some things that you can do to make sure that you're connecting with your manager in a different way. So let's talk about it from the manager standpoint first, and then I'll go into the person working for someone who is remote. For the person who's the leader, the first thing to think about is building connection. It doesn't matter that you are not with the person physically. You can still build a connection with them in a way that's meaningful. It's reaching out to them and just asking, how are they doing? How was their weekend? How was their day? How are things going on the project? How's their team? You're just asking questions. And that builds a connection with them that shows you care. That shows you care about them as a person. And what's interesting is I think a lot of leaders maybe don't go there, maybe don't talk about things outside of work, and they're very focused on professional side only. But I advocate for you to think about that differently, because the people who work for you are human beings. You're a human being. Just talk to them. Have a conversation with them. Don't always make it only about work, because it feels very much then like that's all you care about. And that may not be true. You may have been taught not to do that. It's okay to do that. It's actually a good thing to do that, because that person who works for you then sees that you care about them as a person. You care about their lives outside of work. You care that they're doing okay. And in the world we're in right now, mental health is super important, and you need to check on them. Are they doing okay? Do they need support? They probably will say, no, I'm fine. Say, no, really, I want to know, are you okay? Go to the next level and ask that question, because you asking that question might actually have them open up to you. You might learn some things about how they're really doing. When you're onboarding a new person, you have to probably lay out a plan that's pretty prescriptive about what needs to be done. Create a 30, 60, 90 for them about the things that they're going to do, the people they need to meet with, the processes that they need to learn, the resources or training or videos that you want them to watch. Find ways to start to bring them into the fold. And some of that is through those things that I just mentioned, but it's also a conversation with you. Talk to the person about you. What priorities do you have? What are your values? What do you want them to do in terms of communication with you? How do you like things? Text, phone, email. They need to know that stuff. They don't already know you, especially if they're coming from outside the company, but maybe they come from a different department within the company. They may not know you at all. And you have to share what's important to you so that they know. Ask them information about them. How do they usually work with people? How do they get things done? What support do they need from you? It's a conversation. Again, I'm coming back to conversation. You're just human beings. And for whatever reason, I think in organizations, we tend to put the manager on a pedestal and then everybody else is under them. I want to make that an equal conversation. You're a leader. You're also dealing with a lot of stuff. So make sure that you are having conversations with them that are meaningful, that are transparent as much as you can be. Let them know that you're going through a lot of stuff too. It's okay. They need to know that you're not perfect. If you paint the perfect picture for them, they'll wonder if they can ever do anything that's not perfect. So let them know that sometimes it's a struggle to make a decision on something, or sometimes it's hard to manage your life outside of work when you have 2 kids to take to daycare and maybe your husband needs to travel. And so you are home alone. Whatever those things are, talk about them. Let them know that you have a real life too, and that it's not perfect and that you don't have every answer and you're not always thinking about everything from a work perspective. You're thinking about it from outside of work perspective as well. So be prepared to have conversations that are different. Be intentional. Make sure you're checking in a little more often, not micromanaging, but checking in and see if they need anything. And if they don't, great. Make sure you're just verifying that, right? Because a lot of leaders will probably just say everything's great. Everything's fine, I'm good. And then you may not find out until later that things really aren't great. Things aren't good. So ask some questions. Ask some questions that give you a sense of where they really are and how they're really doing so that you can tell. And if you need to set up a one-on-one to have them review what they're doing, have them show you more details, then do that. It's up to them to come to the party with the information, but it may be up to you to ask some questions, especially if they're more junior. They just don't have the experience that you do with it, and they need your help. So if you're the person reporting to a leader, let's say you're reporting to someone who's in another state or maybe in another country, that brings its own share of challenges because senior leaders have less and less time to really have conversations. Hopefully, they're at least giving you an every other week conversation. If they're not, be sure and set one up because they have a lot on their plate. They get busy, and it's not like they're not thinking about you as someone on their team. But if they're in an office environment that's actually back to work, you're at a disadvantage. You need to find a way to turn that into an advantage again. How can you stay in front of them? How can you make sure that they know what you're doing? How can you have a conversation with them in a one-on-one that really shows the value that you're bringing? Make them see you. Make them think about you. Make them realize that they have a great person on their team who's doing great things wherever you're located. But if you're not doing that, how are they going to know? How are they going to know? So in this world where we're remote, you have to find a way, and I call this putting the movie reel in front of them. How can you put the movie reel in front of them and tell them what you're doing, decisions you made, issues you have that you're addressing, risks to a project, team members who are challenging that you're addressing, team members who are doing great things, talk about those too. Talk about the things that let them know that you're really managing and leading your team in the best way. And if you need their help, ask for it. But again, you have to be the one to drive this conversation because they're busy, just like you're busy with your own team members. So find a way to get in front of them, have meaningful conversations about what's really going on and where you need their help, and show that you've got this. Show that you have a plan or you've got everything in hand. And if you don't, ask for help. Don't wait until it's too late and they can't help you. They want you to tell them if you need help. And if you don't, then they're going to assume everything's great. And I hope that it is, right? Everybody hopes that. But if it's not, you need to tell them. So I've gone through kind of 3 different scenarios of situations where you need to really be intentional and know that this remote work thing is probably going to go on for some time, maybe till next year. For some companies, they're starting back. For others, they're not. So depending on your company, how are you going to adjust? How are you going to accept the situation as it is? You can't complain about it anymore. I mean, it is what it is right now. How are you going to deal with it? What are you going to do? What actions can you take to stay in front of your management and make sure that they know what you're doing? Make sure that you know what your team is doing, and make sure that you know what you're talking about with your manager is impactful, so they know that you're adding value and that you're doing great things. If you don't do that, no one is going to know. And a wise manager once told me a long time ago that if I'm not watching out for my team and my department, no one else is. So I don't want that to ever be true for you, because a department that is not talked about is one that can be eliminated. And you never, ever want that for you or for your team. So you have to continually find ways to show the things that you're doing and how they're adding value to the broader organization. Taking these tips and hopefully applying them to conversations with your team and with your manager will help them see that you're being strategic, that you're thinking about things in a bigger way, that you're managing the mental health challenges that you and or your team may be facing, and that you're willing to ask for help if you need it. I hope this is helpful. I hope you have a great day.